It's the most amazing ancient city, collapsed ruins everywhere on this hillside. It's a beautiful location as well, with the mountains and a lovely view. So some of the stone carving is beautiful, and there are many tombs which are interesting inscriptions in Greek, and so it looks like to me an Eastern Roman Empire city that was really important and perched on a hillside. And I understand that Alexander the Great was unable to take it, so it must have been well defended. Well, I've been very interested to see lots of classical cities, Kibera, Aphrodisias, Ephes, and Sagalassos as well. So this area of Turkey is absolutely full of amazing monuments, not just Roman, Eastern Roman Empire cities, but also earlier, the remains of earlier civilizations. So this morning we went to the Karain cave, which is extremely interesting, Paleolithic age, incredibly old, 400,000 years old, and a very long sequence in the cave there of occupation. I think it's one of the most significant ancient Stone Age sites I've ever been to. But also I like all of the buildings in the towns. I like the Seljuk architecture. I've enjoyed seeing that in Konya and in Karaman. So I've had a great trip round Anatolia. My job is to translate the findings of archaeological sites to the public, to communicate what's important and to tell the story of these sites. And I've been working at Boncuklu Höyük near Konya, and I also this year visited Ulucak Höyük near Izmir. They're both Neolithic age sites, which is an interesting period for me. It's when the people who were living in Anatolia moved from being hunter-gatherers to being farmers, and they started building houses, mud brick houses, and settling down and living in a house. So it's a very interesting period. So I work with the archaeologists to understand what they've found, and then I develop signage on site, websites online, and publications, sometimes for school children, for instance, to help communicate these stories about the past to members of the public, Turkish people and tourists as well. Yeah, well, I think one of the problems with prehistoric sites, one of the problems with places like Karain Cave or a Neolithic site like Boncuklu Höyük is there's very little for the visitor to see. When they visit, they can't see much. There's not like here where we're surrounded by the remains of the buildings made of stone. In the Neolithic, it's very old, it's much older, 10,000 years old, and there's nothing to see. So we had to find a way of recreating what life was like in the Neolithic. That's what led me to work with a designer who could draw cartoons and draw pictures of the houses that we find in the excavation, but to recreate them, to make it easier for the visitors to see. And I think the the way that we presented it to the children at Boncuklu was part of our strategy to give back to Turkish society some information for children about the Neolithic, because it's an important part of their history, but there's very little information available to them. Well, I think it's normal that when an archaeological site is excavated, the objects get taken to the museum. But it's a common problem for museums that they have a lot of things in storage and not much on display for people to see. I think my main criticism of museums and some sites is that there's not so much information available for people, either in Turkish or in English or other languages. And so I think using modern technology like websites, using things like QR codes, you can provide more information to the visitor. Maybe they have to use their phone to follow a QR code to a website, and then they can find out more about the objects in the museum. Often there's only very little information about a stone knife or a pot made of pottery. So I think that would make things better.